Today on my table is focaccia and pear carrot soup. In a cup of lukewarm water, dissolve the yeast and let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes until you see that it starts to form bubbles, and that means the yeast is now active. On a regular bowl, I put 4 cups of flour and I sprinkle a teaspoon of regular salt and another teaspoon of rock salt. I'm using pink salt. Focaccia is naturally a salty bread, which is similar to pizza, and I like to bite little bits and pieces of rock salt in it. Now I'm mixing the water yeast solution, and as you can see, I'm not using my hand to mix it up, I'm using a spatula. Alternately, you can use a mixer to make the dough. At the end of mixing, you will notice that the dough is a little bit sticky and wet, and that's quite normal. Don't forget to add the olive oil, and it doesn't matter if you add it in the beginning or at the end, as long as you mix it through. After mixing, cover it with a slightly wet cloth or a cling wrap and place it in a warm area for 45 minutes to 1 hour, allowing the dough to rise or double the size. After 45 minutes, the dough should have doubled its size. If not, then the yeast didn't activate. Instead of poking the dough, I will be mixing the fillings inside slowly and lightly, making sure that I don't release all these bubbles or air inside the dough. Traditionally, focaccia have toppings. All the ingredients are put on top before baking. I'm using sun-dried tomatoes bought from the store, roasted garlic, which I roasted in the oven a week ago, dried oregano spices, and fresh rosemary from the garden. You can also use other ingredients that is available in your fridge or in your pantry, like fresh tomatoes, onions, olives, or even hard cheese. After I sprinkle all the ingredients, I slowly fold the dough from the side to the middle until I finish the whole circle, carefully and lightly, making sure I still maintain the bubbles inside the dough. I divided the ingredients into 2 sets, so I made a second round in the dough. And then afterwards, I covered it again with a wet cloth and place it again in a corner for another 15 minutes. Meanwhile, I prepared the pan by spreading oil around it, and then I set it aside. And since there's a lot of extra time, I managed to prepare the pear carrot soup in between the waiting time. There's enough time to prepare the ingredients and boil the carrots. After 15 minutes, the dough is ready to be transferred in the baking pan. At this point, you can also heat up the oven to 200 degrees centigrade. Spread out the dough in the baking pan very lightly. Sprinkle a bit more of oregano and salt, and then finally add 1 tablespoon of garlic oil on top. You will notice that the dough is not really spread out properly, but don't worry because you still have one last chance to make the dough rise up by covering it again and putting it in a warm area for another 30 minutes. Meanwhile, we continue to prepare the creamy carrot soup. This recipe is so simple and it has no dairy. Blend your carrots until it's creamy and transfer it into a ceramic casserole or a soup pan. Then after the carrots, you can prepare the pear puree. The pear is not cooked and it will be added fresh later on before serving the soup. Now we'll prepare the soup by adding the rest of the ingredients, the ginger, the celery, and 3 cups of broth where the carrots were boiled. Add 2 tablespoons of olive oil, salt, and pepper. Alternately, you can replace the salt with your choice of vegetable bouillon or chicken bouillon. After 30 minutes, the dough is now almost 2/3 of the pan and it's ready for baking. Bake the dough at 200 degrees for 20 minutes. I want to show you the result of this cooking. You can see the bread is so fluffy and the crust has the perfect crunchiness, but I think it could use more fillings. Otherwise, it's perfect. Now let me show you how to serve the pear puree with the soup. Scoop a tablespoon of puree and put it in the middle of the soup. The puree, when mixed during dining, will add a little bit of sweetness to your soup. And then I add the croutons and parsley leaf as a garnish. And there you have your creamy carrot soup with fresh pear puree and no dairy. And finally, serve your carrot soup with focaccia and salad on the side. Enjoy this new recipe and thank you for watching. Bye!